intro. Welcome to the show, Deana. Today, we're diving into the holy grail of food marketing, being healthy and indulgent. We'll start by exploring your journey from a $5,000 concept to a seven-figure brand, then move into the high-stakes challenge of supply chain volatility. And finally, I want to discuss the future of clean label CPG. Dina, please tell us how you got started with goodies.
Sure. So thank you for having me. The concept started before I even had a name in 2013. I had my first son in 2012, and I was like a lot of moms struggling with losing the weight. And like my whole life, my weight was very up and down. And I recalled Atkins working for me in high school, and I was like, okay, well, let me give it a try. And it worked. I lost weight, but I love food. So I was missing something sweet. So then I started really doing, and I'm a really research driven person. And so I found all these really cool alternative sweeteners that weren't bad for you. So no sorbitol, no maltitol, none of that. And then I discovered erythritol and stevia. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And so I started baking with that and with almond flour and with sunflower seed flour. And so I started making cookies. And my husband and my sisters, they said it didn't taste like it was sugar free. And I took that, and my sister actually said, you should sell these. So I said, okay. So that's just kind of how it started. I was originally going to sell cookies. I switched to a mix because I was agonizing between coconut oil or butter for the cookies. And then I was like, you know what? Let the person decide. And then that's how it started.
Is beautiful, really giving them the option to use whatever they feel like. Let's talk about your philosophy. You mentioned that it's more important to get out there and get it started than to wait for perfection. How did that mindset help you pivot from a ready to eat cookie concept to the successful baking mix model?
I think I am someone who I know myself and I am a perfectionist. And I know that if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to happen. I think a lot of people are like that. I'm not, and not even because they're perfectionists. I just think people are very scared to put themselves out there. And so I knew I was lucky in the sense that there weren't really that many people doing what I was doing. So the comparison was going to be very small. So that I think that gave me kind of the push. But what was really nice is that when competition came in strong around 2018, 2019, I was still beating them out, which means I was doing something right. So that felt really good because you want to be the best in what you're doing, but not be the only one so that you're like the default best. So that's kind of what pushed me. And it helped me pivot in a lot of ways. Like when something comes up, I've grown a lot as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. It used to traumatize me. Like if something happened, I was like, "Oh my god, this is a big deal." Now I'm like, I've done the worst, so this is like nothing now. And so, ingredients prices will go up. Okay, so we pivot and we focus on a different mix, or we push this. Or during low season, that's how I started my bakeware line, my kitchen line, because people aren't baking as much in the summer, but the ones who are, maybe they want bakeware, maybe they want a cookie scoop, maybe they want this. So you have to just kind of by pivoting, you're putting yourselves in the mind of your customer, and so that's helped me a lot, a lot. It's actually saved me, I think.
How would you put yourself in the mind of the customer?
Yeah, so, I am very picky, and I have pretty high standards, but I also have always had a knack for how things if something tastes good or not. It's just been my thing because I love food. So when I put myself in the mind of my customer, I put it not just in taste because I want it to taste and smell and look just as much as the higher carb counterpart that it can. So that's the first way, because people, when they're doing it, you don't want to know that you're having something that's better for you. I know that sounds crazy, but you kind of don't. You kind of just want to have it and be like, oh, because you want it to be part of your everyday life, where it's not just like, "Oh, this is a cheat." This is, like, part of your diet now, and that's okay because it doesn't have sugar and it doesn't have gluten, and it works for you, and you want something that works for you. So that's the first way that I do it. The other way that I put myself in the mindset of my consumer is ease. A lot of people don't know how to bake, so I made these as foolproof as possible. When I tell you that I have tested each of these mixes so many times because 'cause they're my formulas, I mean, I tested them. And so with that, I wanted it to be like if you put a little bit too much oil, or you didn't have an egg, or you didn't do this, you didn't that it would still turn out okay. So that was kind of the other way that I did that.
A very powerful lesson, Dina. You shared a critical insight. Retail distribution almost destroyed your business because it was more about ego than profitability. Could you elaborate on the difference in operational complexity and margin structure between selling online like DTC, Amazon,
Yeah.
versus selling through high
Yeah, and
distribution brick and mortar?
yeah, I think that, like, if this can help any small business, I think if you are like how I was, where everything that I made, I put back into the business, I have no outside investors. So to go in and be with a distribution center, I think the concept sounds great, right? Because it sounds, you're like, wow, my product in the shelves. But really, if you're doing something quietly, and by quietly, I mean when you're selling very well on Amazon or you're selling very well on your website, that is not the measure of success as if you're in a grocery store. Because if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have a broker that knows what they're doing, if you get really ambitious, and I am a very ambitious person, it can destroy you. You need to really read the fine print. You need to be prepared if they want to send mixes back. You just go in knowing what you're doing, not just don't let it be ego driven. That's what I would say.
Dana. Yeah. And I'm not sure if this is actually real, but I've heard that supermarket stores charge extra for putting like your products on regular shelves,
Yes.
which are
So there's a charge for everything. When I say there's a charge for, and I did not realize that. So, and the issue also now that's coming up is that you can get charged. Like, let's say you get into a big store and it's your clientele and everything, which is okay, great. You will also then sometimes, most of the time now, the new thing is they don't want to really take that big of a chance. So you have to give free product. And it doesn't sound like it's that much, but when you're multiplying it times the store and times the product, so a case, whether that's 6 to 12 items per flavor, per market, it adds up. And so if you have the funds to do that and it's in your marketing budget, by all means, go ahead. Then try it. But if you're a small business, I would just caution against it unless you're a small business where you have to be in a store, meaning like it's refrigerated, it's frozen, anything like that. But if you have a shelf stable item, I just take your time.
Dana. Thank you. You target customers with specific dietary needs, keto, diabetic, gluten-free. What is the single biggest operational bottleneck you face when trying to scale customer education while also maintaining trust with this highly conscious consumer base?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of just said it. Like, it's just the education portion of it, especially in the beginning. The thing is, like, consumers are getting a lot smarter now, right? We're kind of like, hey, that doesn't sound right, or that's not good. But on the flip side, if someone reads one thing on Instagram, then all of a sudden they're a professional in it. So you have to kind of speak up. So I think before I was like, oh, it's fine, they'll know, but not everyone knows. So there is kind of a whole thing when just any kind of article that comes out and I'll get an email and I'm very happy to open up a dialogue. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dietitian. If you have any questions or concerns, you definitely should go to your doctor or your dietitian or whoever it is that you speak to, because I am not a medical professional. But I know baking. And I mean, I know gluten-free baking and I know keto baking at this point because I've been doing it for so long. And I think just the biggest thing that I found that was very helpful when informing and educating was usually when it comes to price points. So I would have, especially in the beginning, they're like, oh, but so and so is cheaper. I'm like, right. And I don't ever want to put down another brand because that's not right. So I'm like, but please, I would just encourage you to look at the ingredients because erythritol or allulose or stevia or monk fruit are so much more expensive than sorbitol or maltitol or even xylitol. And there's a reason for that, right? The other three can raise your blood glucose levels, and I have lots of reels about that, or they can give you gastrointestinal distress. So I think that's just kind of like for pushing that, or if someone doesn't like certain ingredients. So I have that's why I have so many options as well. So if someone doesn't want nuts, I have my sunflower seed flours. If they don't want seeds, I have my coconut flour. If they don't like the I have my watermelon seed flour. So I think having options is the best thing, and that's what I try to do because I myself always want options because I just change my mind every single day.
That's like normal with everyone, right? I'd love if yeah, the story about egg white powder going up 600% and how it's a stark reminder of supply chain risk.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because it finally went down. So I waited it out. I waited the market out. So when people are looking at the market, like the stock market or the crypto market, I'm like looking at the ingredient market and the commodities. It finally went down. And what's interesting is that it went down. It's still not what it was before, but I am gonna produce it because I do have the demand for it. And it's enough of a I still am paying about like an 18% increase from my previous cost of goods on my COG, but to me, is it worth it because the customers are wanting it? Yes. Could I have done it when it was at a 40% increase of my COGS? No. Like there's just doesn't make sense at that point. So that's when, I mean, and egg white powder is just one of the ingredients that has gone up in price. Cocoa. Now my brownie mix is increased in price. Now my devil's food cake is increased because cocoa has gone up. My chocolate chip cookie has been out of stock for almost a year because chocolate chips are very expensive. Probably on par with the percent increase of egg white powder. So it's just what I've learned because of these ingredient. I've learned not to depend on an ingredient because especially chocolate. I have to tell you, chocolate has been both a blessing and a thorn in my side from the beginning. Like I have always had where prices are going up, they're going down. There's a supply chain issue. There's this and that. I was like, "Oh my God." Like I hated it. And so it's been kind of nice to like not have a headache about it. And then egg white powder comes and like tries to give me a headache. But it's making sure that you always have a backup, and I think that used to give me anxiety, but now I have such a variety of mixes that I'm like, "Okay, I'll figure it out," or I'll do it for and I think that just comes with time and maybe an experience, but with my bread mix that does use egg white powder, it's coming back this month, so I'm very happy about that. It's very funny you brought that up. I did have to wait till it dropped in price. It's still not what it was before. It's not as bad as it was, but with that, that was just patience, and there's a chance that it wasn't gonna go down, right? But that whole egg crisis where everything was going up, and so what did I do? I had to push my other 2 savory mixes, my cornbread and my biscuit, and you just pivot.
Yeah, yeah. That I love that you're just able to pivot. I know a lot of people just struggle with it. It's just the one way, and that's all they think about.
It's hard.
Dina, I'd like to ask another question. What is the most effective system or process Goodies uses to monitor ingredient volatility and make those tough decisions
You know
without, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't last bit, without damaging brand loyalty? That's very important.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's just it's a gauge, right? So I'm very lucky. I work very closely with my co-packing facility that manufactures my mixes for me. So just in case no one knows what that is, it's just that I can't make them in my house even though they're my formulas. And I've been with this partner for 10 years. So we trust each other, are very well versed in this game of baking mixes and ingredients and stuff like that. So usually they'll give me a heads up. I usually kind of have a heads up. I'm on multiple newsletters and everything about ingredients like almond flour and everything like that. So I have an inkling it's going to happen. But for brand loyalty, I think the 2 things that have been very important is that one, transparency and letting them know like, hey, this is out of stock because of this. And that's why I think so. Yesterday, I did a pre sale for my multi purpose bread mix. I'm like, hey, thank you for being patient. It's back. And the response was crazy. Like I had a very great sales day. I was like, and it just showed you like they really were waiting for it and they were patient. And I was just honest with them. I was like, listen, I cannot make it right now without raising the price so significantly that I wouldn't even do that to you. And so I think that's really what it's come down to. Just being able to have the transparency. And then the second thing would be able to have the conversation and the dialogue with these consumers. Because a lot of these customers have been with me from the beginning. Some of them, like we chat, I know their family life, we follow each other personally on Instagram. So I think just having that relationship has been very helpful for me as well.
That is beautiful to hear, Gina. You mentioned a big lesson was one of humility, being okay with admitting you need help. What is the single biggest operational or administrative task that you, as the founder, still find yourself doing that you know you should outsource or automate?
I've now outsourced what I can. I know my strengths. Most recently, I've re-outsourced my social media, not like with the messages and stuff, because I have such a repertoire with my customers, but like making the videos and making the creatives. I always thought I was a creative person, and I am, and I'll still do it. But I know when people are doing something way better, and I know that I need help with like TikTok. Right? Instagram, I kind of have a grasp on. TikTok, I don't know if it's my age. I don't know what it is. I don't get it. And so I have hired someone a lot younger than me. And we have like this content calendar that we're actually going to be creating today after this conversation. And I feel very excited about it. So I think being able to say, hey, I'm really bad at this. Another thing that I was really bad at is I love numbers and I'm great at financials, but I have a really, really, really good bookkeeper. And I would tell anyone that's where you should spend your money. Do not be cheap when it comes to your bookkeeper. So that is another thing that I think I've been able to humble myself down and be like, you know what? I need help. So, yeah,
Amazing to hear. And I completely agree. Those are two very important facets in your business. One would help grow, one would help keep costs low.
very true.
Intense competition in the low carb category. If Goodies is to maintain the status quo and does not find a way to scale its operations currently in the next 12 months, what's the most severe consequence you could face?
That's a really good question. I don't look at it like that. Maybe I'm like delusionally positive, but I have just been there for so long and I've actually outlasted a lot of my competitors. A few of them are gone and they were strong ones. But I think bringing back like old favorites that maybe I had taken out at the time because of issues like we were talking about with production issues and stuff like that, kind of like the nostalgic bringing back, hey, remember you like this mix? That would kind of be something, but I really just I don't see, and I'm not saying this in a very this sounds arrogant. I don't see that happening because I have a plan. And I feel
That
like
is
if I could
amazing.
survive the last few years, I think I'll be okay.
If it's too forward to ask, what is the plan?
Yeah, so the plan is there are some fan favorites that I'm bringing back because the last few years, and I've been very open about saying this, have been about surviving, not thriving. And I think now we're kind of ready to kick that off and really expanding also the bakeware line. It's going strong. The brownie pan with the dividers are doing very well. The donut pan is doing very well, and we launched a cake pan that's doing well. And actually today we should have all the stock in for a square brownie baking pan. So I think just like expansion doesn't always have to look like what we think it looks like. So that, yeah. So I just think like honing in and perfecting what I already know what I'm doing. And when I'm bringing back the bread mix, and I think that had a great response. And focusing on that. And like I said, I also recently acquired another gluten-free mix company, and I have those mixes. So I'm kind of like kind of competing with myself, which is kind of exciting. So we'll see.
Is you're the winner. Dina, what is the one thing that has to go right for Goodies to hit its biggest goals in the next year? And what is the single biggest constraint slowing that down right now?
Yeah. What has to go right? That's a great question. I think figuring out the online marketing plan. And I think the biggest constraint with that is, and I've said this also as well, so it's no secret, just kind of maybe figuring out, and I will be delving into it this year. So I'm nervous and excited is like TikTok shop and even figuring out, is it worth it to stay on Facebook advertising? Because I don't really see the returns on that. And I hate to quit on something, but it might be where money that I'd be spending on TikTok should probably be going to on Facebook should probably be going to TikTok. So just kind of figuring out, and everyone always says they know what they're doing and they can help you. And I've been interviewing a ton of agencies, and I think I found one that I like, but I've been around the block. So I kind of know when someone is just like blowing smoke, I guess you should say. So that's been very time consuming.
Absolutely. No, that is very fair. What are the top two, three strategic goals for the company over the next 6 to 12 months? And how do you envision achieving those goals?
Yeah. So my number one goal is to decrease the cost of advertising. So in Amazon talk, like the ACoS, so bringing that down so that I can increase the profitability. And I think also the second thing would be trying to lower my cost of goods, my COGS, as much as possible. And that includes with freight, with everything, bags, and all of that. Actually, you just reminded me I need to reorder some bags as I said that. So, like, I've been sick. So, I'm like, so yes, I have to order bags. And I think focusing on that and then being okay with, I mean, what we've been doing and what has worked for us is that we were pushing our top five. But now that I see like the kind of like the middle winners, I'm pushing those ahead now. I think just like being cautious at first because you don't want to. I wasted so much money on Facebook advertising after 2021 when the iOS changes happened instead of just throwing in the towel. But now that I think we figured out our rhythm, I think pushing the mixes that I know that can do well that I haven't really given the attention to.
Yeah, that's really good. That was a very turbulent year for anyone who ran Facebook ads, including myself.
It's
I've
mean when
got
that happens.
yeah, that was really me. And then I think last year, the year before that, they released another one which changed the scope, the landscape. I've got one last question for you. What's something that we need to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, I like that question. In what sense? Like in business or just with me?
With Dina first and then goodies.
Okay. What we
They
haven't talked
don't
about.
have exclusive.
Yeah, no, no. I think like what should be. I think it's what's interesting is that there's not that many females in my space, like with the baking mix space. And it's very interesting because I've seen people come in, not just with baking mixes, but like kind of in the keto field, and the low carb field and stuff like that. And they already have like ties or connections or stuff like that. And it kind of can be hard to come out and show yourself when I don't know, it's never been my jam to just be like, okay, and like being aggressive about stuff like that. I've kind of just wanted the product to speak for itself and for myself to speak for myself. So I think that's probably something that's not talked about. Like I have said before, I've worked with people and then they've made comments about me being a female. One time it was in an email, they didn't know I read it. They forgot I was CC'd on there. There was a guy and when I was expanding into Latin America and he just didn't pay me. And he's like, "You have enough money, like it's fine." And I think it was very funny because he did it to a couple of other people and the other companies he did it to were also female based and driven and fronted. I think it's while there has been lots of milestones and steps made ahead for female founders, I think there's still a bit of a ways to go. That's what I would say. For both good deeds and for myself.
Absolutely, I completely agree. That is quite infuriating just to even hear about it, let
Oh,
alone
it
go.
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I've even worked with agencies and if I got I'm very passionate about what I do, and this is, like, very important to me. And so I've been told, like, one time he was like, "Calm down, lady." I was like, "Lady? You're my agency." So, like, for advertising. But thankfully, I've, like, surrounded myself with the right people now who respect me as a female founder. But it took time, and it was that was very hard, especially yeah. Just men trying to put me in my place, I thought was very interesting. I think there is work that needs to be done there.
Well, I'm glad that you surrounded yourself with the right people.
I'm
And
lucky, yes.
wow, it's so disgusting to hear that, just that, because I have no words.
It happens,
But
I'm so, like, unfazed now, but at the time I was like, "Ah!" Yeah, so it's just, like, shifting and not wasting energy on that. I found that that's helped me a lot.
I completely agree. Yes. But Dina, thank you so much for your time today. It was incredibly insightful to learn about the profitability pivot, the change of ingredient volatility, and the importance of realistic growth over ego. I can't wait to see the heights that Goodies reaches next year and would love to catch up sometime in the future and discuss more. Thank you for coming.
So thank you. Thank you for having me, I really appreciate it.